Extra special thanks to Cincy Music for co-hosting My Favorite Album is Terrible. For the best in what Cincinnati's amazing local music scene has to offer, be sure to follow them on Instagram at Cincy Music, that's Cincy with a Y, on Facebook at cincymusic.com, also Cincy with a Y, and on their official website, www.cincymusic.com. Here's the show. Good evening. Kent Mulcahy here with the Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library, and we are back for another episode of My Favorite Album is Terrible, the music show where we discuss misunderstood or unloved albums by otherwise well-respected artists. We are not talking about guilty pleasures. To me, a guilty pleasure is something that you might love, but you know it's probably not good music. That's not what we're talking about. If I pick the album or if a guest picks the album, we are talking about an album that we honestly believe is good music and everybody else is just wrong. As I say each and every week, everything we talk about on this show is going to be available to you for free with your Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library card. Make sure you check the comment section. I will put up links to everything that we discuss. Most of the music that we talk about is going to be available digitally through our Hoopla and Freegal music services, but we could also dip into our CDs or our amazing vinyl collection. In other words, if you are paying for streaming music, you're doing it wrong. Between all of those formats that we have, you will not be hurting for music if you go through your library. Also, speaking of the comments section, if you have things to add to tonight's discussion, if you have thoughts on the album we're discussing, or if you have an album you think we should discuss in a future episode, please jump in the comments. I would love to go back and forth with everyone tonight. Also, very importantly, if you're enjoying what you're seeing tonight, please give us a like and a share, especially a share if you consider it worthy. Helping us get the word out is huge, and the more folks we have joining us every night that we do this in the comments section, the more fun it will be. I would definitely appreciate it. Okay, I've really been working on trying to get the introduction part of this show much shorter. I understand, let's get to the interview, let's get to the discussion, let's get to the album instead of me going on and on and on forever. I get that. Why am I bringing this up? Well, if I were to properly introduce tonight's guest and go over everything he has done, this would be the longest introduction ever. Tonight's guest is Kick Lee. Kick Lee is just an amazing asset to Cincinnati. Kick Lee runs the Cincinnati Music Accelerator, which is a nonprofit organization that helps local musicians with the business side of the industry, but it also helps them with things like mental health and general wellness. Just an amazing nonprofit. Kick Lee is also a music producer. His music has been featured in ads from, I don't even know where to start. Amazon, Microsoft, MTV, BET, Lexus, Disney. Come on, maybe you've heard of some of those names. Also, his music was featured in an ad for the 2018 Winter Olympics. Come on. So we are definitely going to be talking about some of that stuff along with the album that he chose. What album did he choose? He chose Kanye West's 2013 album, Yeezus. You knew we were going to talk about Kanye at some point on this show. So Yeezus came at an interesting time for Kanye. He was, basically he could have had a victory lap based off of his 2010 solo album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and then 2011's Watch the Throne, his album with Jay-Z. Both were just universally, critically loved, super popular, big radio songs. He was about probably as popular as he'd ever been. So he could have taken an easy victory lap, put out an easy-to-like, radio-friendly album, but, Kanye being Kanye, that's not what he did. He put out Yeezus. Yeezus is a challenging listen. It really is. It's abrasive, and, it's abrasive musically and honestly, lyrically. And I'm sure we will, get into parts of that. But yeah, it's a short punch in the face of an album. And just it's a fascinating listen. Obviously I listened to it when it came out. I haven't listened to it in a while. It was very interesting to revisit that. So that is the album that Kick Lee picked. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. And with that, let's bring on our guest. All right, Kick Lee, thank you so much for giving us some of your valuable time. How you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good, feeling really good. I'm in a happy place in life. sun's shining and, life's moving along.
Good, good. So glad to hear that. Now, when I was recording my introduction for this episode, I made a point to say that I'm trying to keep my introduction part of this show short, but to do so and introduce everything that you do, that would have been the longest introduction ever. So I thought I would
Yeah.
just shut up, get out of the way, and say, please, just tell us about yourself and everything that you do.
So, everything. That's a long list. I got you, though. I got you. So, Kick Lee, founder and executive director of the Cincinnati Music Accelerator, an organization focused and dedicated to the acceleration of music creatives here in our greater amazing city of Cincinnati. I am also a music producer and composer. I create music for a lot of marketing and advertising with various brands such as Toyota, Amazon, Lexus, Nissan, Wilson Sports, and the list just kind of goes on.
It really
And I've been
does.
doing that. Yeah, the list goes on. I've been doing that professionally in the sync licensing world for about 6+ years. I've been in the music entertainment industry for about 18 plus.
Wow. All right. So yeah.
So,
Oh no, go ahead.
no, good, go ahead.
Yeah, the Cincinnati Music Accelerator. I mean, I really encourage folks to just go to the website and just read up a little bit about them. Give them a give them a follow on all the social media. It is just as a former local musician until I realized that my bedtime is 9 o'clock. So it's not my it's not my part in life to keep playing music. But please check them out. Where can folks go to find out more about the Cincinnati Music Accelerator?
You can go to cincinnatimusicaccelerator.org as well as search Cincinnati Music Accelerator on all social media platforms.
Yeah. And I was doing, so I'm the grants resource librarian at the library, and I was presenting to some Art Academy of Cincinnati students a couple of weeks ago, and there you were in that presentation. So tell us about what you do there.
Yeah, so I am an adjunct professor. I teach professionalism within the arts. It's my first time ever actually being dubbed a professor, I guess legally.
Yeah.
So it's been a great experience. The semester's pretty much over, so we had our last class of the semester last week. It's been a wonderful experience. The students were really great. They're all amazing. The staff has just been outstanding. And I mean, I hope to come back again for another more semesters and be able to just share my knowledge and experience and expertise.
Yeah, we've done a lot of events with them at the library, and partnered with them. It's a really fantastic school in the area for any artist. It's just great. Okay, well,
Absolutely.
thank you for all of that. Everyone out there has their research to do. Seriously, getting caught up on him. You have a week's worth of homework, and since he's a professor, he'll grade you on how well you did in the research. So, the topic at hand, the album we are discussing tonight. I went into it a little bit, but so tell us, what album did you pick for us to talk about?
So I picked Kanye's Untitled album. And the reason I picked that album is, well, it's technically called Yeezus because when
Right.
it first came out, it was Untitled.
Yeah.
And then the name changed to finally came out as Yeezus.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose that album pretty much because it was something that was different than what Kanye normally does, what he typically does. I felt like it was a phase in his life where he was really trying to experiment and taking a risk doing that. And it was not well received. I actually remember the night it was being released. I stayed up until 12 a.m. for it to come out and drop. It dropped. At first, even I was kind of like, man, what am I listening to
Yeah.
here? But as I took more time, had more patience to really dive into it, I said, man, he's really experimenting with these sounds. He had a lot of, low end 808s, a lot of sub, a lot of grunge, growly crawl sounds. Like I was like, man, I really like this. But others are like, this is terrible. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
And I mean, it's honestly, it is noisy. I mean, it is
It's
just a
noisy.
noisy album. And I'm glad you mentioned like critic, people hating it, we're going to get there. But just for a second, let's back up. Let's just go back in the history here for a second. What was your introduction to Kanye West?
Jesus Walks
Yeah, sure,
was my
absolutely.
introduction to Kanye. Yeah, literally, because even at when that was monumental in music itself, because you could kind of pretty much say it was a gospel track,
Yeah.
in a different way, but it was a song, it was a style and a delivery that people really were like, wow, this person was actually able to mention Jesus.
Well, and he even says it. He's like, he acknowledges, like they said, you could rap about anything except for Jesus. And he's like, it may
Yeah,
take away from album sales, but it's all about, he got that song in his own words into the club.
man,
Changed everything.
changed everything. And I actually consider Kanye a pioneer of just, in so many ways, the way he would produce, the way he would sample things. It was like, even stuff. And I be honest, I wasn't really big into sampling at that time. I actually was really against sampling because
Oh,
I like to leave someone's art as it is. But I met some
huh.
folks who taught me about legacy in music. And by sampling, you're actually helping, depending on how it's explained and how people look at it. It's a way of preserving that individual and their legacy throughout time and life. And I said, wow, I never thought about it from that perspective.
I hadn't either.
And
That's an interesting note.
yeah. And that's when I finally was like, you know what? I'll sample a little more. I still don't sample.
Yeah,
Now I use samples like, maybe some drum kits
sure.
here, little pre-made loops. But when it comes to actual published record samples, I don't really do that.
What were okay, Kanye West is putting out a new album. What were you expecting or hoping to hear from the album that followed My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy?
You know what? I don't know because I think there was a bit of a gap in between. I could be wrong. I feel like there was like a nice gap in between when he released it, and there
Yeah, it
was
was.
a lot of yeah,
There was 3 years, and then Watch the Throne with Jay-Z was
yeah, yeah,
2011.
yeah, right. And but so it was like I don't know. I didn't know what to expect because again, each album is to a degree different,
Yeah,
for some artists. And Kanye was one of those. He delivered a lot of the same things, but it was in a way that was very mesmerizing. It was like, oh yeah, that's Kanye. No one
totally.
questioned it. So when Yeezus came out, it was like, is this Kanye? Like, who is this? Like, what is up with these sounds? Like, especially because that was also around, was that 2013? That was like around a time of like dubstep
Yes.
be in the house. Everyone's like, was he trying to like experiment with the dubstep sounds and like stuff like that?
Yep.
Like, what's going on here? But it wasn't that. It was just, I feel like he was just in a space. He was like, man, I've been through some things in my life, and to better say this, I feel like it was the introduction of the new kind.
Yeah, no, and in more ways than one, not just musically, and that's something I want. I have written down as a question to get to it. But yeah, like I was the same thing as you. I hit play on it, and you've got this. Not only is it like a really loud synthesizer, it's distorted. The first track is on site, and he comes out of the gate like, not only musically, Kanye is yelling at you on this album a
Yeah,
lot.
like,
I mean, his vocals, he has the auto tune, but
mm-hmm.
he doesn't have that like soft, gentle flow that he really
Yeah,
had, especially on his first and second albums. So
yeah,
all expectations were smashed the second
yeah.
you hit play on this album. Yeah, I remember that moment too. I just was like, whoa, hold on a second. So you
It's
already
like,
talked
what's
about,
happening here?
yeah, I know. It's like, is this the wrong CD? Did I put the wrong CD in here?
Right.
So you were saying, you liked it. At first it was jarring. You got around to it, but
Yep.
everyone else hated it. Now, interestingly, critics seem to love it. I mean, right off the gate, critics liked it. But your music
Yep.
friends, your friends that you discuss music with, do you remember any of the things they would say when you were like, no, I kind of like this one. Give it some time.
They literally would just say, "This is trash. This is trash. This is trash, trash, trash." And I'm just like,
Hmm.
"You're not listening.
Right. And
You're not listening." And I say listening with the intent to not respond. It's like
there it
having
is.
having dialogue with each other. Usually, when we talk to each other, the moment someone says something, we're pretty much in a conversation with the intent to actually respond.
Hmm.
If someone's venting to you, you're listening with the intent to actually respond. But we never take the time to listen without having the intent to respond. Just
Absolutely.
listen. And that's what I like to do a lot with music is just listen. With people I meet, I want to
Hmm.
just listen because through listening, you learn more.
Yeah.
I've learned so much just paying attention and just observing. I'm
And
also
diving back
observing the
in.
music. Yeah.
If like, I mean, with streaming services like now, you listen to something once, there's no buy-in to it. Oh, I listened once, I'm done. Like that was still, it was the end of the CD era, but you were still kind of paying for music more often. So it
Yeah.
was like, I paid for
Yeah.
this. I didn't like it on first listen, but darn it, I don't have the kind of money just to throw around. So I'm gonna go
Right.
back and listen. Do you think there's any chance? He was with Kim Kardashian at this point. He was definitely becoming more of just the rapper, the producer, the musician. He was becoming
Hmm.
much more than that. He was becoming a cultural staple, no matter
Yeah.
what side of things you were on. I feel lyrically on this album, there are some over the top things, and there's a part of me that was just like, I'm wondering, was he leaning into being the bad guy? The public had made up their mind about it at this point. There's just this part of me that was the abrasive music, the abrasive lyrics. I didn't necessarily
Hmm.
take that as, oh, Kanye's a terrible person now. I took it as he's like, well, nothing I do is going to make anybody happy. Why don't I just say the things
Right.
you think I'm going to say? And let's go ahead and put it behind the music that you just, think I'm going to hear. Do you think he was leaning into that role maybe by this time?
Yeah. I feel like so. Yeah. I feel like he was trolling, and
That's it.
so
That's
to
that's
speak.
what I should have said. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like he was trolling it because, like I say, people are going to talk about it, good or bad.
Yeah.
And sometimes the bad actually outweighs the good.
Hmm.
So if you play into the villain, people are going to talk more about the villain than they will the superhero.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing with superheroes, even every superhero, Spider-Man being kind of the primary one, J. Jonah Jameson always talking bad
Hmm.
about the hero,
Hmm.
talking bad about the person that's really doing some good. And Kanye probably noticed like there's probably more good in me actually playing the part of the bad character because I'll get more attention, more sales,
There you go.
more
Yeah.
write-ups.
Yeah.
And he's like, let's go with it. And in my opinion, it worked.
Totally worked. I mean, there's no such thing as bad press. I mean, this was, I guess, fifth or sixth album if you're counting. I guess you have to count 808s and Heartbreak. So I guess this is.
Yeah, right, right.
Am I counting that right? Sixth. By this
Yeah.
time, I don't care who you are in your career.
Hmm.
By your sixth album, he didn't put out an album every year because he works on stuff. So what are you going to do?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. Now, touching
Yeah.
upon something else you said about those things going on in your, the life that we may not know about. It's, by now we know that Kanye is now kind of being pretty open with battles of mental health, some
Yes.
things that have come on there. And I hear people talk. So at first I didn't care for this album, but for some reason, when people would tell me they didn't like it, the reasons that they gave, I hated the reasons that they didn't like the album. I know that doesn't make sense. It's
Hmm.
uppity. And I remember, looking back on it, Britney Spears very publicly, she's had a battle with mental health. She's been taken advantage
Man.
of. And I'm not trying to say she doesn't deserve, the help she gets and the sympathy and the attention that she's bringing. But I can't help but feel that Kanye did not and is not getting the same fair shake with his struggles as, some other folks have. And I don't know if
I
you have
mean,
any.
I feel like yes, I agree, and I feel like that's due to his own negligence
Mm-hmm.
and his own ego.
True.
You know, Kanye could probably tell himself, "I don't have an ego." We know you have an ego. It's
Everybody
clear as
does.
day.
Yeah.
Everybody does, and sometimes Then another thing that I try to even tell the students I work with in music, anyone in music really, is you don't understand it until you're in this position of power.
Oh, yeah.
Kanye is in a position of power. A lot of celebrities are in a position of power. They're in a position of, you can't tell me nothing,
He wrote a song about it. Yeah.
literally. And I think that's where his state is. He is in a position of, you can't tell me anything.
Sure.
But he's starting to, within the past year or so, he's starting to really get people that he loves, he cares about, coming to him and say, you need help. And not only that, you need help, we're going to come to you
Yeah.
and help you. Because what was that? Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, I think a few others actually came to him and hung out with him for some brotherly love to say, we are here for you. We want to help you. And we feel like the best way we can help you is actually physically be present. And I think he's starting to get that. I'm a little, I don't know the full circumstance. I don't know the circumstances in general of why him and Kim Kardashian split. I can say it is what the media has projected to us that's the reason, but there could be something more deeper there. They, especially because I'm like, they're both now billionaires. The fact that their divorce was a divorce agreement, whatever you call it, is actually the same exact thing. Spousal support. They literally took each other's, like they shared, said, let's compare notes. All right, we need this to be the same thing. It could really be a very mutual thing to say it was great at that time, but now we're in a point of our lives where we're feeling different. And versus it coming out in a bad way, I've watched a ton of these movies where you see the more behind the scenes in the film. You'd be like, oh, so there was actually more to it. So that's why they resigned. Yeah. That's why they broke up. Yeah. They didn't want that to get to light, so they tried to squash it before it became public.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's just so much there we don't know, and it's always a tricky area. I just have some friends that are just like, I'm not going to listen to Kanye because he's just such a terrible person. And I'm like, you're giving breaks to other people that I know are equally as terrible. It's just the fact that he's a more popular artist. I don't know. That irks me. Well, to me, this album, I mean, it's a corny thing to say. This is something you hear like music snobs say, so I realize it's going to be over the top. But to me, this is like a you push play and listen to it all the way through to the end. I don't know if it's like an album of singles. That said, do you have a favorite song on the album?
I do, actually. Black Skinhead.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that one, honestly, right out of the gates. I mean, you've got like On Site, Black Skinhead, and then I Am a God. I mean, the song titles alone are challenging, but yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that one, like when it just starts, I was like, okay. And that was like actually the song where I was like, all right, that sounds like a typical Kanye track. So he didn't veer off too far left.
Yeah, it
stayed the track a little bit.
You almost are expecting, like, you're at like, a basketball game or something, but he doesn't go there. And yeah, that song is, I got to agree.
And what's crazy, something a lot of people don't know, because a lot of them, aren't in the world, is a lot of that music from that album was licensed for different shows, different advertisements, different brands. Like they used a lot of that music because it set a tone for a lot of visual things.
Yeah.
Especially like workout videos. Like there's like Nike used quite a bit of it. Puma had used Adidas. Spalding had used it in some ads. The production itself, a lot of people loved it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I really have a hard time with anyone that says they don't enjoy at least the soundscapes of that album. So that's your favorite song. Kind of moving to the wrap up part of the conversation. So if that's your favorite song, is that the song you would if someone's never heard the album, is that the song you would recommend people start with? Or is there another one that you think might be more of a ease yourself in? There's no easy song on the album, but I don't know if any.
Probably New Slaves.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one that has that outro by Frank Ocean.
Yeah, that would probably be the one I would say start with that one.
Yeah.
And then Black Skin. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have I actually did write this down. I don't know where it's at in my life now. I used to listen to albums,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, man, the track order is all off.
Yeah.
And I would write down in my little notebook what I would feel like the track order should be.
Oh,
and
that
I
is
would
so
share
cool.
that with friends. Yeah, I would share that with friends. And unbeknownst to me, I was doing it. A lot of my friends would tell me in high school for sure. They would be like, "Man, this actually it's a story in the way you reorganize it." And I didn't know that. I just was like, "This is how I feel like it should be, listed out versus how it was, already listed out."
Yeah. Yeah, no. So in your mind, do you like the track listing as it is, or did you have a better one for this? No.
No, I mean, again, I don't remember off the top of the head. I don't want to spitball it out, but it's like I do remember writing down a list. I think it was like 2 days later after Yeezus came out, of how it should have originally been, track listed out.
Well, maybe if Kanye is watching this, he will, edit the digital version and make this an evolving album like Life of
Kanye watches this. I'm saying, call me. Let me help. Let me produce some music. Let's do some stuff, man. Let's do some stuff.
Well, I will work I have no connections. I'm not even going to lie. The name of the show is My Favorite Album is Terrible. But, we play loose and fast with that. So is this your favorite Kanye album? And if not, what is?
It is not.
Yeah.
Watch the Throne.
So good. So good. Yeah.
My favorite album. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, when that came out, I was like, because, Jay-Z is probably my favorite rapper. So, you're getting Jay-Z and Kanye on one album. And I was like, there's no way I'm not going to be disappointed by this. There's just no way. And then that first single, was it Otis, was the first thing anyone heard from it. And I was like, okay, it seems like they're really going to bring it on this one. And yeah, it lived up to the hype and then some. And then some.
Yeah, I mean, that Otis track, even the video was like insane. I was like, they took this Maybach, like just cut it all up and just went. Oh my goodness, that was dope. Cinematography was dope. I was just like, this is just fire.
I mean, it's just the album's called Watch the Throne. I mean, that was just the victory lap of victory laps. Like, in the history of music, that was like the ultimate. What's everyone gonna do? Come on.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, sounds like an okay place to end this to me. Is there any other thoughts you have? Anything you want to add in general about anything? Floor is yours.
Only thing I want to add is, when you listen to an album and you don't agree with it, you don't like it, give it some time. Take some time to listen. Something else I was going to mention earlier was, if you listen to the Yeezus album now, I'm probably sure that more than likely the high percentage of people that did not like it actually enjoy it now, because a lot of those sounds, those elements have transcended into other music.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's not as jarring now. Yeah.
It's not as jarring now because there's a lot of music that's out there, a lot of rappers who pretty much mimic the same thing Kanye did with Yeezus.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Go back and listen. I bet it's not as
abrasive
as you thought. My only thing I was going to add was, as someone who mainly listens to like death metal, grindcore, like super abrasive music, if you are a metal fan and you don't listen to much rap or pop music, give this album a chance. This might be your album, because it's not heavy in the sense of super distorted guitars and screaming vocals and massive drums, but it is one of the heaviest albums I've heard. It's just period.
Agreed.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy. We're going to let you off the hook and get back to the million things that you have to do. But seriously, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a good rest of your evening. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight for My Favorite Album is Terrible. Huge thanks to Kickley for giving us his time. I mean, it's pretty clear how busy he is, so we definitely appreciate him joining us for this. As I said before, check the comments section if you want to go back and listen to any of the things that we talked about tonight. Check those comments, put a hold on it with your Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library card. Those will be ready for you there. Also, definitely check the comments section where you will find what the next episode of My Favorite Album Is Terrible will be 2 Thursdays from now. So definitely check that out. I hope to see you then. Thanks again to Cincinnati Music for co-hosting these with us. You should know by now they are the source for local Cincinnati music. So definitely give them a follow and find out what's happening in Cincinnati music. So thanks again. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I will see you in 2 Thursdays. Good night.